Lake Mead has risen more than 3 feet over the past month, and nearly 13 feet since January 1st. The lake, which supplies 90% of the water used in the Las Vegas Valley, is bucking the trend of the past 5 years. Lake Mead typically drops beginning around April, following a seasonal pattern. As snow melts upstream in the upper Colorado River Basin, water is held back in dams all along the way to prepare for higher consumption during the hot summer months. Water eventually reaches Lake Powell before flowing through the Grand Canyon and into Lake Mead. But this was an exceptionally wet winter, good news for the 40 million people who rely on the river for water. As a record snowpack continued to grow into early April, it became clear there would be water to help refill Lake Mead and Lake Powell, which had drained to less than a quarter of the amount of water stored when the reservoirs are full. The past 23 years, a megadrought, took a heavy toll on both lakes, with the Lake Mead bathtub ring getting bigger every year. Currently, the level is at 1,057.75 feet after starting the year at 1,044.96 on January 1st. The low point was on July 28 last year, when Lake Mead was at 1,040.72 feet. Lake levels are expressed as the elevation of the lake's surface above sea level. Lake Mead has been rising steadily, but might only recover to 26% full by October 1st, according to projections earlier this year. The graphic above shows that even a record year for snow has only been enough to erase 1 year of drought, but that's just at Lake Mead. The largest reservoir in the United States, Lake Mead is the gauge that Nevadans, and a lot of people in Arizona and California, use to judge the urgency of the water shortage. But there's a lot more to the story. What's happening at Lake Powell, the nation's second largest reservoir, shows that the wet winter will make up for more than the last 2 years of drought. Lake Powell is now about 41% full, up from 22% in early April. A chart shows Lake Powell has risen about 65 feet since April. Lake Powell is now at 3,584.67 feet, after a low of 3,519.92 in April. Lake Powell's projected inflow through the end of this water year, September 30, 2023, is just over 14 million acre-feet of water. That's more than the last 3 years combined, according to a U.S. Bureau of Reclamation news release in late May. If it climbs another 20 feet, it will wipe out losses over the past 5 years. But that's not likely. In fact, the recent trend could indicate that the increases have ended. On July 6, the level dropped by a fraction for the first time since late April. The spring runoff has officially slowed down, according to a Bureau of Reclamation spokesperson. We are now entering what is called the baseflow period, where inflows plateau and Colorado River Basin reservoirs are not expected to rise again until next spring when runoff begins, the spokesperson said Tuesday. In comparison, on July 3, 2022, Powell hit its water year high at 3,539.84 feet in elevation, 44 feet below this year, the spokesperson said. But as we've mentioned, one good water year will not fix the decades of drought we've experienced, and Powell remains at about 41% of capacity. While it's a long way from Las Vegas, what happens at Lake Powell has everything to do with how much water is in Lake Mead. People often wonder about how much a heavy Las Vegas rainstorm will help Lake Mead. And the fact is, rains in Las Vegas, even floods, are a drop in the bucket. Granted, any water added to the system is a plus. But it's the decision about how much water to let out of Lake Powell that has by far the biggest effect on Lake Mead. Last summer, conservationists revealed that there's a serious problem with that situation. The pipes that take water through Glen Canyon Dam to turbines that produce electricity for the region are not at the bottom of the dam. They are farther up.